And now against Jon Jones, you get fucking submitted within the first 2 minutes of the fight after giving him a low blow. Like, come on, dude. I don't even think he deserves that #1 spot in my opinion. But hey, he's tied for it with Stipe, and in my opinion, Stipe deserves it a lot more. He should have been the guy in the ring this past weekend. Woo! What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to the Kevin Hoops Show. I am the host here, Kevin Hoops. Just in case you're new here, I see a lot of people that aren't subscribed watching this channel. If you guys could do me a quick favor, hit that little red subscribe button. I'd really appreciate it. Let's get into some meat and fucking potatoes. We're talking the motherfucking GOAT. I'm talking Johnny Bones Jones. Now, for those of you that don't think he's the GOAT, and I really haven't seen many of you in my comments, if you don't think that Jon Jones is the GOAT, just fucking leave. Just get the fuck out of here. You don't know what you're talking about, all right? It's that plain and simple. This dude, Jon Jones, has accomplished accomplishment after accomplishment after accomplishment, and people still aren't giving him his props. Now, I get it. The dude has a pretty rough life outside of the UFC.
I would party 1 week before every fight.
Not necessarily rough in the regular aspect, like he lives in poverty, but just doesn't make the smartest decisions outside of the fight game. But when he's in the octagon, he's the smartest dude there fucking is to be in there. Like, I wouldn't want any other guy in there defending me unless it's Jon fucking Jones. He proves time and time again that he is the best and continues to improve. I don't know about you guys, but I think he's impressed a lot of people in general. I've seen a lot of people start to call him the GOAT. Obviously, Dana White has considered him the GOAT for a few years now, but I think when it comes to like the mainstream, I think a lot of people, you know, might go over towards Alexander Volkanovski, maybe Khabib, maybe Anderson Silva. You know, there is some other contenders, I think, maybe for the #2 spot. But the #1 spot and #1 GOAT is Jon Jones, no questions asked. I don't care if he's not the #1 pound for pound right now. I even understand that. You know, he hasn't been fighting that frequently. I wouldn't expect him to be the pound for pound #1 guy right away. If he keeps on going the way that he's going in the heavyweight division, I don't see why the fuck not. Now, talking about the thing that I really want to talk about is where Jon Jones is going to rank in the heavyweight division compared to all the other heavyweights. Obviously, right now, he's the champ, but he really didn't have to face that hard of a challenge with Ciryl Gane. Obviously, Jon Jones has the background of wrestling. Ciryl Gane has the background of kickboxing, and we all saw where that led to. A first-round fucking submission. Now, whether that was the biggest challenge or not, I really don't think so, but either way, this next fight is going to be a challenge for Jon Jones. It has to be Stipe Miocic. Not only for the fact that he is considered one of the all-time great heavyweights, other than maybe Cain Velasquez, but in my opinion, Stipe was almost as good as Francis, if not better. When it comes to overall technique and overall wellness of a fighter, I think Stipe wins that fight all fucking day, especially if his age wasn't as up there as it is. I do, however, think that with the time off that Stipe has had, I do think he can come back and look pretty well. Obviously, there's going to be some ring rust, but I think that he can get through a lot of that if he's been consistent, which he says that he has been. The dude is a full-time firefighter now. He's doing great things. I think he's got his life in check. He's, you know, pretty well mentally. So I really think that, you know, he probably could have fought in this fight in March. When he faces Jon Jones, come June, July this summer, I do think that he will be ready. I think that, you know, he'll have all of his ducks in a row, and we'll be seeing the best of Stipe that we possibly can see. Now, in my opinion, I've almost been waiting for this fight for years now. Obviously, Jon Jones has been looking at the going to heavyweight for a little bit now, and we saw Daniel Cormier do the same jump at the same time that Jon Jones kind of left, and there wasn't really that contender in there with heavyweight other than Stipe versus DC. I believe that Francis was kind of making his come up, so he really wasn't at the top of that division. So really, it was just DC and Stipe kind of going back and forth between belts. Now, in the first matchup, DC wins, gets the knockout. In the second matchup, we have Stipe come out and get the knockout. So I think that, it shows that Stipe has still got it. Not only against some Joe Schmo like Cyril Gane, but he still got it against the best in the business like DC. And especially when it comes to grappling. If you guys can grapple with a guy like DC or Jon Jones, you're a top elite, top-notch grappler. I don't care who the fuck you are. So the fact that Stipe has a win in the past 3-4 years against DC shows me that he's still on the top of his game. Yeah, he might have gotten knocked out by Francis, but that shit happens. If you're going up against Francis Ngannou, it's like flipping a coin if you're gonna get knocked out or not. Like, the dude is just massive, and the chances of him landing one shot on your fucking face is kind of high in an MMA fight. So I really don't think that, that fight against Francis is the biggest and most thing to take away from how Stipe is going to look if and when he faces Jon Jones again. Now, the reason I keep on saying if and when is I got out my little investigative journal for a little bit the past few days. And if you guys look at the UFC rankings, Stipe is actually tied for the #1 contender spot with Cyril Gane right now. Now, I don't know if it happened right after the event. I don't know if it happened before the event. In my opinion, it happened probably after UFC 285 and Cyril Gane lost. He didn't lose to anybody that was below the guy with the belt, so there's not really anywhere to put him below #1. But at the same time, he did lose, so I think it's fair for him to be tied for that #1 contender spot. And it just so happens that that guy that he's tied with is Stipe Miocic, who I think, in my personal opinion, would wipe the fucking floor with Cyril Gane. Now, whether Cyril Gane thinks that's true or not, who the fuck knows, but that dude needs to learn fucking wrestling. Just look at the whole Francis Ngannou fight. The dude was literally fighting off of one leg, and you still got your ass taken down. And now against Jon Jones, you get fucking submitted within the first 2 minutes of the fight after giving him a low blow. Like, come on, dude. I don't even think he deserves that #1 spot, in my opinion. But hey, he's tied for it with Stipe, and in my opinion, Stipe deserves it a lot more. He should have been the guy in the ring this past weekend, but it is what it is. We can't complain. All we can do is make do with what we've got and move fucking forward, which is what we're doing here on the Kevin Hoop Show. Now, another thing I want to quickly talk about is the guys that, are under Stipe and Cyril Gane and what that would look like after the Stipe-Cyril Gane fight. For those of you that do not know, this April 22nd, or in this upcoming April fight card, there's going to be 2 heavyweights going at it. And those 2 heavyweights' names are Curtis Blades and Sergey Pavlovich. I could be pronouncing that name wrong, but it's Pavlovic, something like that. I think that this is basically a #1, #2 contender spot, almost to see who's going to fight for the belt after June, July, which, might not happen in 2023, might happen, beginning of 2024. Either way, I think that these 2 going at it is going to be the next up after Stipe versus Jon Jones. Or, gosh forbid, if something happens with Jon Jones, Stipe in June, July, the winner of this fight in April could possibly be, the backup guy or the next guy for the belt after June, July, if that fight happens with Jon Jones and Stipe Miocic. Another possibility we could see is Cyril Gane, the guy who just lost for the belt for the second time, if he faces the winner of Curtis Blades and Sergey. That's something that could happen. I really don't think that that's something that would happen, because then you would have Cyril Gane facing the winner, and then the winner of that then faces for the belt. And that could be Cyril Gane's 3rd shot if that is how the timeline goes. So me just thinking of Cyril Gane getting a 3rd shot at the belt in such a short amount of time, to me just isn't that realistic. I don't think that that's something that's going to happen. But you never know with the UFC. Anything could fucking happen. Anything is fucking possible in this business. But in reality, I think we're going to have Stipe versus Jon Jones happen for the belt in around June, July, late 2023, early 2024. We see Curtis Blades or Sergey fight for the belt, whether it's Jon Jones or Stipe. I think it's going to be a close fucking fight against Jon Jones and Stipe. Again, I've been almost waiting for this fight since DC went to heavyweight and kind of showed that it was possible. And Stipe, I've always seen a lot of Jon Jones' style. When it comes to managing the distance, when it comes to ground game, he's absolutely phenomenal on the ground. We're not going to see a Cyril Gane who just crumbles in the first 2 minutes when somebody goes and attacks his legs to try and take him down. My only thing is, are we going to see the Jon Jones that we just saw, who is dialed the fuck in? Or are we going to see a Jon Jones who's riding a high from winning the belt and not taking things that seriously? Because if so, I think Stipe has a good chance to fucking take it. And not to mention, he's a firefighter, so the dude is just tough as fucking nails. So you gotta always put that thing in the factor just a little bit. You know what I'm saying? Either way, it's going to be an exciting next couple of months. Hopefully we get the announcement that Stipe versus Jon Jones is going to happen in June, July soon. If so, I'll be covering it. We go live just about every single Saturday, whether it's a UFC fight night or if it's, Jake Paul fighting some fucking new MMA guy, who the fuck knows. Tune in. We're going to have Peter Yan's fight night coming up this Saturday. We're going to be going live for that around 5 to 7. I know it's an earlier type of event. With that, ladies and gentlemen, don't forget to hit that subscribe button if you're new here. If you enjoyed this video, hit that thumbs up that's right underneath the screen. It's like something like that right there. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about Jon Jones versus Stipe Miocic. Maybe you guys think somebody else will have that spot in June, July. Who the fuck knows? I want you guys to let me know. And with that, have a great fucking day.